Good evening, members of the council, mayor, city manager, city clerk, anybody else listening to this. This is Chris Kennedy with the Make Broken Arrow Great Again podcast on Facebook and the Okie Traditionalist blog. And as you know, I am running for city council for the at-large position 2027, and that would also include seeking election for mayor through the council vote. So before I talk about my main agenda item, I want to voice a few objections. So first, I have not received any communications in return about any kind of final decision whether or not there will be formal investigations about my ethics complaints about the January 12th meeting and the fraudulent misorganization or collaboration about the speaker order, and also the cover-up, and also the illegal way of obstructing my request for open records, and then also objections to the mayor's use of her position in gaining profit through her business, and her threat to me to sue me when I brought this up, as well as the at-large councilor, vice mayor's Parks, his own participation in the fraudulent arrangement of speakers at the January meeting over the mosque vote. So in all those details I presented to you, I have not gotten any response from you. So, unfortunately, then, as of today, I do hereby conclude that you have refused to do your proper duty to at least simply investigate in a public, official way these ethical complaints, these grievances from the public, from a citizen of Broken Arrow. The second objection I have is I have not still received any kind of final conclusion from the city council itself, who I've emailed, about my request to appear through Zoom. So according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, for any health issue that could pose any substantial issue, big or small, that would be classified for legal purposes as a disabling condition or disability, the city must provide reasonable accommodation. Having Zoom and having somebody click on Zoom on the computer while I connect through Zoom on my smartphone is a reasonable accommodation. The other thing that was told to me by the senior city lawyer was that this would break the tradition of an in-person discussion. Well, that's absurd, because that means that anybody who is disabled, fully disabled, partially disabled, even if they can work, but they have any health illness that gets in the way of coming to a meeting, they're excluded. They're treated unequally. They're excluded from the democratic process of speaking to government. So that's obviously absurd. So since I have not heard back from anybody about this, I do hereby officially conclude that you are refusing to even consider and communicate to me about it, the possibility of honoring my federal civil rights. So that means that I'm essentially denied the right to freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of petition, and freedom of press, because I'm also representing my blog and podcast. And today, we have a phenomenon today, which is legitimate, of citizen journalism, which is part of what I do with those, through the podcast and the blog. So I really think that those who are most involved with ignoring these issues should be ashamed of themselves for violating the Constitution and the federal law and showing a complete disregard for those who are suffering, for those who have limitations that say that it's not wise to go down to the city hall and sit in the city hall chambers and then stand up at the podium and go through that process because of their medical condition. So whoever is ultimately responsible for denying this, they should be ashamed of themselves. This doesn't just violate my rights, it objectively violates the rights of literally thousands of people, in probably on the order of thousands of people in our city. All right. Another item I want to objection is that I am critical of our city government lately, as you know. I've made critical, respectful, nothing illegal, nothing harassing. There's no insults, there's no threats, nothing of that kind. But I use political satire and I criticize on social media the mayor, the city manager, and Lisa Ford, because she's very active on social media. I get a retort from her husband, who I respond to, and then give a description of that exchange on my Make Broken Arrow Great Again podcast. Then I get this very insulting, false, completely false, misconstruing comment from Lisa Ford's daughter, accusing me of attacking her mother, right? Accusing me of sexualizing her mother. You can go to the podcast page. You can read that in the review. This is shameful because if you look at the actual timeline, first of all, recently I brought up the issue of needing an extraordinary, more like a forensic style audit. Others are saying the same thing. She, I believe, responded in part to me and to others by making a post about that there is an audit. So then I got into exchange with her and this other person. And then around the same time, I'm answering her, making a comment, having an exchange with her husband, right? Then I post on my podcast, and then hours later, I get the message from Lisa Ford's daughter, right? Who says she got a phone call from somebody telling her that I'm posting vulgarity on my website. I'm attacking the councilwoman. You can look at the post I made. There's absolutely nothing vulgar about that. There's nothing me sexualizing it. I'm simply talking about a dress, in my opinion, as a Christian, as a conservative Christian who believes in the Bible, is too tight. It's certainly too tight around a certain area that, in my opinion, it lacks class. It's meant to be too attractive in a not a good way when you do that in public and you're presenting yourself as you're representing the people. And by the way, it was a side comment. It wasn't even the whole point of the post. It was like in a comment underneath the post. Okay, if I offended somebody, I'm not going to apologize because I didn't say it in a bad way and I didn't say it with a bad heart. I said it because I think that's an important issue for me is modesty in our society. And it was just one comment. But if you look at the timeline, what it looks like, it is more likely to be true than not. As legally speaking, it's over a 50% chance that Lisa Ford influenced her daughter to come on my podcast site and make false allegations, and they were attacking me. And then I responded to the daughter not to make any more comments on my page. See, once I did that, I gave a line that she shouldn't cross. But then she continued to make comments twice after I asked her to stop. So the problem is, you see, is the chain of cause and effect. Her mother's getting upset. That's what it looks like. Her mother's getting upset. More likely to be true than not that she influenced her daughter to retaliate on her mother's behalf, to silence freedom of speech, to silence the little man with a social media account from daring to critique a member of the government, an elected official. Now, when you combine all this with everything else, okay, you can't blame me for finding the whole thing to be utterly absurd. If you look on my podcast, I list like 13 areas in which my lawsuit against the city is claiming damages. And this is just one of those areas. So I encourage you to go there tomorrow or the next day and really to read through that list of the things I've experienced at the level of city government and elected officials for the last 12 weeks. All right. So I can set those to the side, all right, and I'm not going to dwell on those. I have no animosity towards anybody to them as persons. I certainly hate anything that violates the Constitution, that's indecent, that is harassing or bullying, but I don't hate the person. So what I want to focus on is my main complaint, that if I was able to stand there tomorrow night at the meeting, my main concern is this, is about the AirBNB industry in Broken Arrow being, I believe, targeted by City Council in a tyrannical way, more by the city management, okay, and the city office, including the attorney's office, to want to resort to excessive government, excessive regulation, excessive intrusion into business. Here's the problem presented by the attorney, by the city manager. Y'all listen, and you have a little bit of chit-chat back and forth, but you're basically, it's like you're being spoon-fed. And he's really in charge. No, you all are in charge. God is in charge by means of the people who put you in office. And I implore you to reinvert, to turn things back on its head, to be in accord with the statute that founded this city government. Let you be in charge. You are in charge of the city manager. You are in charge, Mayor Wimpy, Vice Mayor Parks, all the other members of City Manager Spurgeon. You are in charge of him. He is not in charge of you. And this inversion of the proper legal order needs to end. And if elected, I will help do that. If you really think about it, government should be the city council should be full of debate and discussion and sorting things out, right? The people should be bringing issues to the councilors, who are the main source of initiating an ordinance or a proposition. But look at the discussion that was had 2 weeks ago. This was so shameful because you're having a chit-chat back and forth about these issues regarding the city ordinances, let's put it this way, about the disturbances with these Airbnb properties, right? People who own these properties, they live out of town, they live out of state. Often, it's for certain locations. You have people who rent it out for a party. They make a lot of noise. This is a problem, right? So we got to now expand government, make it bigger, right? So what happened was, towards the end of that discussion, if you go back and zoom through that meeting, when you watch it, when you talk about it, the way things wrap up is the city manager Spurgeon makes a statement. Nobody made this statement. Nobody on the council made this statement. He made the statement. He says, well, with regards to this issue, there needs to be more regulation. See, the elected officials didn't say that. They're the actual legislature. They're the ones who draft laws. They're the ones who propose laws. And then he goes on to say, before the next meeting in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do some research and I'm going to draw up an ordinance for y'all to vote on. He didn't even ask you. He didn't say, hey, is it okay if we actually write up an ordinance that you vote on? Nobody on the council proposed that. He proposed it, and he didn't even ask. He just said that's what he's going to do. So I absolutely encourage you to vote no. First and foremost, because the proposal for an ordinance typically should be coming from the city council, not from him, and not the way he did it, to just say, I'm going to write up an ordinance. Now, he might want to gaslight what I'm saying. See, that's not what I said. You can go back. It's everything, typically everything I say, I can back it up with concrete evidence. From emails, from Facebook messages, from photos, from videos. Just go back to the video. You can look at it yourself before the meeting tomorrow night. I encourage you to do that. And see the sequence where he starts saying, well, we need more regulations. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to draft up an ordinance. Nobody suggested that but him, and he didn't suggest or ask. He said that's what he's going to do. Okay? So who's running this city? Is it God? By means of the people? Through democracy, through the elected officials? Or is it this man who, let's be honest, he makes twice as much as the governor of Oklahoma? Governor Stitt makes actually right under, I believe, $150,000 for managing the state of Oklahoma. This isn't private information. Spurgeon makes over $300,000 a year. That's my wife in the background. She's laughing. This got to be 10, 15 minutes, whatever. I'll try to keep it shorter next time, because I know that these things should be like 3 minutes, but here I am recording this from home. I don't hate any of you. I hate what I'm experiencing. And I hope things will change, and I hope I will help make a difference. I hope you take what I'm saying seriously, because it's not just my opinion. A lot of people have talked to me in the last weeks since I started the podcast. Really, it was in February. A lot of people have connected with me who share my same view that there's a lot of bad practice in our local government. And there's a lot of serious issues that go beyond roads that needs to be taken seriously, especially from our tradition, the tradition of the Bible, of Judeo-Christian values, of Christianity, which is the de facto majority religion for the city of Broken Arrow. Not to say the official, but that is the tradition of our city. In the Bible, Old and New Testament, speaks up and down about how the government needs to be there to serve and not oppress and not put down too much taxes on people and burdens on people. All right. Thank you very much. I will try to talk to you soon, about in 2 weeks. All right. God bless.